Welcome to Daryl's Little Corner. We'll be with you every Monday from 7 until 8. Tonight in the studio with me is Dr. South. Now you're kind of familiar to everybody in town, aren't you?
Probably.
Well, you've been on here before too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know she's a doctor here in town and has been for a while. A while. That's why you say it with ladies. You say for a few years.
Well, since 1981, so count that up. Do the math. That's
We got
what,
this gray hair
32
because we're
years?
young. That's right.
32 years.
Yes. Dwyla, where were you raised? You were raised here, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
I thought so. Yeah. You still live on your home place, or?
No.
where you were
I
raised?
live out Highway 4 West, about 3 miles from the Benton County line, in what used to be the Beach Hill Church of Christ children's home.
Oh.
It's a big old rambling house that's way too big for me and my husband, but
I don't know. It'd be kind of fun.
it needs to be turned back in. Probably it'll end up being a nursing home. That's what I'm guessing. Start out at a children's home and end up as a nursing home.
Well, I mean, lots of room to store stuff.
Yes, and storage and stuff in your house is kind of like your budget. It doesn't matter how much you make, that's how much you spend.
That's right.
So however much room you got, that's how much full of junk it is.
Well, now if you get a little house, what would you do?
I don't know, because
No way.
Roger and I both are kind of like amateur hoarders. I
Oh,
don't
we
know
are
what
too.
you'd say.
We're not even amateur.
He's a professional hoarder.
We are
I'm an
too.
amateur hoarder.
Oh, yes. We're good at it. We are.
I can't throw anything away.
We don't either.
Oh, Lord.
We don't. We are awful. Were you raised in the country, weren't you? Wasn't in
Oh,
the
yes.
city?
I think we've
thought
had
so.
that discussion
I
before.
thought so. Well, did you ever hoe cotton?
Oh, yes.
Pick cotton?
Very little cotton picking. My story on that is, I was lucky enough to come along. We hoed cotton, but we'd get a cotton picker. But when I was about 5, I remember picking cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandma, whom I call Big Mama, made me a cotton sack so that I would have a cotton sack. Cotton sacks are like 12 feet long.
Oh, yeah.
So she made me one. It was about 3 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked cotton all day and filled that little sack up, and my Papa hung it up on the scales, and put the peas up there, and I was ready for my money and had my hand out, and he reached in his pocket and gave me a dime. And I said, "To heck with this," and that was the last cotton I ever picked.
That's enough, huh?
I picked all day and got a dime. He thought that was big money for me, though.
Oh, but back in those days, that was money.
Yeah, but
Think
even
about
then, I knew that wasn't
That
much
wasn't
money.
it, huh? Not for a whole day. A whole day. Did you ever
Nope.
pull corn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that stuff that hits you all over.
Yeah.
All that leaves
I loved
hits
it,
you.
though.
Ooh,
I love
ooh,
that.
I don't. One time I remember we were shucking corn at the house, and my brother-in-law had come home from Florida, and his boy came home with us, and I don't know if the kids were playing, so I just went to doing the corn, and he come in, he says, "Aunt Daryl, can I help you peel the corn?"
Peel the corn, yeah.
Yes, and it looked strange to people that were not raised here. It's strange to them. I learned to can, and with the big old cookers, and we have kids, you do all this stuff. Did you ever can?
Oh, yes. Still
Oh.
do. Yeah, I like it.
I retired from it.
Yeah.
I retired from it. But I remember these kids in the neighborhood who were playing with my kids, and they came through. They were from Chicago, and they couldn't believe that you put that lid down on those jars. You put that lid down on that pot with those jars. And I remember they just sat there and waited to see if it was going to blow up.
It still always amazes me that things, I've got some vegetables and things that my grandma canned that I don't want to open them because I want to look at them. They're still pretty. I'd kind of be scared to eat them, but they're like
And they did it with a water
years
bath,
and
didn't they?
years old. It's amazing to me how that
But that
still
way back, they water bathed them hours and
Yeah.
hours,
pressure cooked them.
and
too.
didn't have air conditioning, and wood stoves, and mercy. Do you sew any?
a button on now and then, but no, no.
Well, if you can sew a button on, that's good.
I do
That's
have a
good.
sewing machine that was my grandmother's, and it's an old treadle sewing machine. And I remember when I was little, you know, getting on it and doing this, and I never did really know how to sew on it. But my husband Robert, who passed away a few years ago, he liked to sew. I mean, he'd been in the military, and he liked to tinker with stuff and repair pants, and so he would get on it, and he broke the belt. And I said, well, gosh, where are we going to get a belt for this? I mean, it was a little round leather thing, and I said, nobody has these anymore. What are we going to do? And he said, I know, I'll go see Mr. Nance. He's got everything.
He does.
He went down there, and I went with him, and he said, I'm looking for a belt for a treadle sewing machine. Mr. Nance says, oh, okay, which one of these do you want? And he just reached behind him and got it. And I said, like this, I couldn't believe it. But, you know, it doesn't matter what you need. He's got it in there. That's great.
Right. I have a treadle, and I got my needles there. Now, you say, can you sew on it? No. No. There's a rhythm to it that you've got.
It's relaxing.
But you've got to, if you don't keep that rhythm, then you start sewing backwards when you don't mean to.
Sort of like an old pump organ that you have to play. Yeah, you have to be really coordinated.
Yeah, you got to have some talent to sew on them. Now, I sew on an old, it's one of the first electric. It's a universal. It's an old black machine with these pretty design on it, you know. I don't know exactly how old it is, but I've had it ever since my children were small, and I bought it used.
Yeah, Mother used to, because I've always been fat all my life, and I was always, you know, going to school hard to fit. I mean, you can't, you know, find clothes to fit little fat sawed-off kids. So Mother was a good seamstress, and every stitch of clothes that I wore till I got out of school, Mother made it. And so I mean, she was an excellent seamstress.
I remember when my kids were small, I used to take in sewing. Sure did. I mean, you just do what you have to do, you know.
Yeah, the only sewing I do now is like if you got a cut, you come in, I'll
sew it up.
That's only sewing really I do.
Oh, I still sew. I made this.
Wonderful.
I still sew. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I had to when I was young, and now I want to. I don't have to, but I want to. I don't know. Stuff stays with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like riding a bicycle. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I flunked out on that. I went to work at Benchcraft Security Guard, and I don't know. They had a 3-wheel, but you'd make such better time, and you could go in smaller places. So I got me a regular bike, and I killed myself on it. I finally learned to ride it, but I wouldn't try it again. Oh, they say you never forget, but that ain't true.
Well, you just get to where you're not as able. The balance is still there, but the want to is still there. The knowledge is still there, but the body doesn't cooperate.
Well, that's just right.
That's what it is.
You're right. Did your family use wood heat and well water and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
When you're coming up. Well, see, I'm not from here, remember? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I've never drank out of a cistern. I've drank out of a well, but never a cistern.
Yeah. It's, you know, now everything, you worry about environmental toxins, and you worry about cotton poison and DDT and all that stuff that, you know, I guess part of the things that we used to get exposed to are responsible for a lot of what's wrong with us now. I don't know, but it seems like it's scary to think about all the, you know, breathing all that smoke and working out in the fields and the cotton poison and the DDT and all that stuff. I guess we're all lucky to be alive, and our children have only one head.
You're right.
You know.
You're right.
Because of all the things we get exposed to.
You know, a few years ago, my daughter got a milk cow, and you know, you can't hardly give that milk away. I don't know, Henry did. Now, my brother-in-law that passed away not long ago, he gave up a milk route. He'd go over there and he'd get all these jugs of milk and he'd get rid of it for her.
Oh,
He'd
yeah.
go around and deliver it.
Well,
But,
there are
a lot of people
elderly
don't drink it.
there are elderly people that will tell you like I remember Mr. Bliss Eaton, Boone and Dole's brother Bliss lived to be like, I don't know, 103 or whatever, and you could ask him to what did he attribute his longevity, and he said, I drink raw milk every day. And I mean, and he did for 104 years,
right.
however long he lived to be. He drank raw milk and never got sick from it. So that's what he said.
Some of those old-timey things, I don't know why, but they were. My mother-in-law, she lived to be 90 years old and had her own teeth, and she'd break a branch off a tree and rub them, and, and here I'm asking the dentist, you want me to do this way or this way?
Yeah.
I'm running this string between them and everything, trying to keep them, and she just took that branch and dipped it in snuff.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
I remember
and they
my
rub it.
remember
They
my
rub it.
grandmother doing that, and I never dipped snuff. The closest thing I ever did,
Couldn't
you
have it.
want to emulate your parents and your grandparents, and all of them dipped, and so what we would do, and you may have done this, people listening will relate to this. When you're kids, you want to do that, but you do that one time and throw up. Well, you don't want that anymore.
No.
So what we did, we got Hershey's cocoa and, the powdered chocolate and put sugar in it, and we put it in our lips like that and go around. I got a dip. We thought we were big, but because we couldn't handle the snuff, but we thought we were big. Yeah.
Oh, man. It's funny what kids do.
I know.
Never
And
know.
smoke rabbit tobacco. Did you ever do that?
Oh.
You know what that is, right? I mean, you
Oh,
used to go out in
I
the
never seen
woods
it
in
in
the
my life.
fall and pick the leaves and roll them together and roll them in paper and lick it. And
Now, I did,
we thought that was big stuff.
I did smoke one time. Somebody told me I would lose weight if I started smoking. It was a lie. Don't try it. It don't work. Don't just look at me. It doesn't work. And I smoked for about 3 or 4 months. And, one day I got thinking about it, and the kids needed things, and here I'm scrapping up pennies to buy these old cigarettes I didn't care nothing about. I quit.
Well, that was the smartest thing you ever did.
I just quit. But then
You're
I
lucky.
gained weight.
Well, what happens to people when they stop smoking? And I deal with this every day. People say, I don't, I'll say, you have got to quit smoking or you're going to die. You got emphysema.
Well, yeah.
You got to quit smoking. You're going to get lung cancer, heart disease, all this. There's nothing good about it at all. And people, women fall for that same trap that you fell into.
I did.
They'll say, well,
did.
I really don't want to quit smoking because I know I'll get fat. And the thing is, what people do is smoking is more than just a habit of the nicotine. It's a habit of having something in your hands and putting it in your mouth, like this. It's also the taste, and they're wanting to put something in their mouth. So people tend to, when they stop smoking, sometimes because all of a sudden they can taste their food again, it tastes good, and they want to put something in their mouth. And they're constantly eating candy or searching for something to put in their mouth, because part of the smoking habit is fiddling with cigarettes, lighting them, getting them out of your pocket and putting them in your mouth and smoking them. So that's harder. The harder part of it to quit is the oral and the manual habit of wanting to have something in your hand and something in your mouth than actually the nicotine withdrawal. That's the worst part of getting somebody to quit smoking. And women will use the excuse that they don't want to get fat, so they don't want to quit.
Well,
so.
what about these electronic cigarettes?
Well,
Does
that's a
that
good
help?
question. And it depends on, there's some of them I've seen that actually utilize nicotine, and then that produces a smoke, and it's shaped like a cigarette, and it even makes a little light at the end when you pull on it. So I have not really seen anybody meet with long-term success from that. The most success I see of people stopping smoking is just getting scared. They'll get, I've had guys to stop smoking because they'll come in and they'll say, I feel so bad and I've smoked for so long and I've got to quit because I think I've got cancer. And I can't breathe and I can't, and you do an x-ray and you say, no, you've got emphysema and you've got a little touch of pneumonia and we're going to take care of that. And their comment then, well, I was so scared I was going to die with cancer that I'm ready to quit smoking, Some people will have a heart bypass and never smoke again because they have that little brush with death that it's all of a sudden reality sets in. I mean, we can operate in denial for years, but when death comes right down on top of your head, or the fear of death, that will motivate you to quit. And so I have better luck with people just getting sick and getting scared, but that sometimes it's too late then,
It is.
But it's never too late to get better. As soon as you stop smoking, your lungs are going to begin to clear. And so, and cigarettes are poison to your body. I don't know how we got off on this, but this is good. This is a good topic. They're poison 3 ways. The nicotine, is a poison because, they use that in bug spray. They use that to kill insects in the field. It's poison. It's a cardiac poison, and it works, it damages your blood vessels. Then you've got the tar that you absorb into your lungs. And tar, as we know, is a cancer-causing agent. Then you've got the carbon monoxide that you're breathing, which is like what you get if you put your mouth on the, like an exhaust pipe. So, you've got poison nicotine, poison tar, and poison carbon monoxide. So the smartest thing that anybody could do, and when you told me you smoked and quit, that's fantastic.
40 years.
But if there, anything that we can do to get young people to not ever pick it up, because it's the hardest habit on earth to break. It's harder to stop smoking than it is to stop drinking or cocaine or any drug. It's the most difficult thing on earth to stop doing.
What about secondhand smoke?
Well, it's toxic too. But, most people don't get enough of it to get emphysema from it. But, if you were constantly breathing it, it's actually even more concentrated than... like, I know I worked in the break room. And, everybody came in there and smoked, that secondhand smoke. Would that be a dangerous thing? Well, if you did that all day long, every day, yes. I don't think you should. You weren't in the break room half a day, were you?
Well, sure. I was doing the vending machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my job.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't think you'd take a break half a day. But it's difficult. Now there's a thing called the Mississippi Tobacco Quit Line, which is great. And I didn't know we were going to talk about this, or I would have brought the number. It's a 1-800 number you can call, and it's a foundation. What it is you'll talk to a nurse, and they will talk to you about your smoking, and they will try to get an idea from you whether you might respond better to the nicotine gum or the nicotine patches or the Nicorette inhalers, which are like, I don't know if you ever saw the little cigarillos that men used to smoke with a little plastic tip. It almost looks like one of those. And it, has got nicotine, and it's like smoking. There's no smoke. There's no tar. There's no carbon monoxide. But it lets you break that first part of the habit, which is the nicotine, and then you can break the manual habit of wanting to have something in your hand and then wanting to have something in your mouth. So it was like a stepwise. But what I'm saying is the Mississippi Tobacco Quit Line will give you that free. It will send it to you. Yes. So, we need to, I'll provide you that number. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. This is one reason you need to tell me what we're going to talk about
I
so I
know.
can be prepared.
Didn't know either.
But it is a wonderful thing because they
Yes,
will
it is.
give you the nicotine gum or the patches or this. They will give it to you free and support you anytime you're having questions or, you're wanting to fall off the wagon. Like I hear people say all the time, oh, stopping smoking is the easiest thing on earth. It is so easy. I've done it 40 times.
Yeah.
It's like staying stopped. That's the hard
Yeah.
part.
It is.
But the Mississippi Tobacco Quit line is like your tax dollars at work. I mean, because those things are not cheap, and they
No,
will
they're
give it
not.
to you, and they will give you medical advice and guidance and support free.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great thing, and we need to promote that.
Yes, we do, and we need to get that number for them.
Okay.
And if you want to quit and you need that number,
Well, you could Google it. You
call
could,
one of us.
yeah, you could Google it. Go online and just Mississippi Tobacco Quit line and get the 1-800
Okay.
number. But
Okay.
I'll provide it, and she'll give it to you
Okay.
next week.
Okay, Mississippi
Tobacco Quit
Tobacco
line.
Quit line.
Mm-hmm. Our Mississippi Academy of Family Physicians is really into
If I
that,
can't
and
find it, I'll call you.
yeah, we'll
get
give
it.
money to that all the time because it's really a good program.
Mm-hmm. That if you can get off of them any way you can,
Yeah,
any way you can.
no joke, it's the toughest thing in the world, and
It
I
is.
admire
It
anybody that, I see people that have smoked, 20, 30 years and can quit. That is a strong person. It is so hard, and I'm not saying a person's weak if they can't stop. It is just so hard. And I remember Dr. Walden telling me once, and he got real sick and got scared and stopped smoking years ago. And he says, he always says, Angel, that's what he says, Angel or Sweet, that everybody is,
Yes.
that's his word.
It is.
And he said, Angel, there's never a day goes by that I don't think about those cigarettes. I still want one. He says, I find myself reaching over that pocket. If I get nervous, I'll reach over here to get it. I mean, people do that.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, at night, when I'm having my dreams, in my dreams, I'm smoking. He said, I dream about
Oh,
smoking.
my.
I would smoke one as long as from here to the road if I could get one, but I know I can't do it. And, he's just a strong person. And
He is.
and I
Yeah.
admire that because I don't, if I was a smoker, that's why I'm always scared to learn how to play golf because anything I like it too much.
I do too.
And everybody I know that plays golf is a fanatic. And so I figure if I did, that's all I'd want to do. So I don't want to even learn how to play it.
I'm that way. If I don't eat one chip, I eat the bag.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to do chips, do them all. But it just, you don't have that cut back ability.
Yeah.
People say, well, I'm going to cut back smoking. That never works.
Yeah.
Never works. You either quit cold turkey or you just don't quit.
Well, I think that more people have long-term success with incrementally stopping than cold turkey because what happens if you don't go through this mental aspect of why you're doing it and change the way you think about it and change the places where you smoke. Like, you have to ask people, where are you most likely to smoke a cigarette? Like, people anymore, a lot of factories won't allow you to smoke in the break room.
That's right.
So people will go out to their car and smoke up their cars and fill up their ashtrays to the point where anytime they get in their car, they want a cigarette. Or there are people who have got to have a cigarette as soon as they eat dessert after supper. There's like these little triggers. One of the things you got to do is get all your ashtrays. Make it difficult. Make yourself a rule. I got my first husband to quit smoking by saying, you're not smoking in our house anymore. If you want to smoke outside, go outside. I'm not breathing anymore. The kids aren't breathing it. So he had to go physically. If he wanted a cigarette at 10 o'clock at night, he would have to get up, put on a coat, go outside, and smoke. So, it makes it not worth the effort.
Yeah.
That helped him to stop. just me saying no more in the house. You know, it's your body. You do what you want to, but you're not going to do it for my kids to breathe. You're going to go outside. And, you know, people need to kind of be strong that way. And, you know, because it's not helping them. It's enabling them if you let them go on and do that around your children. And just like we were talking about the rabbit tobacco and the snuff, it's children want to emulate adult behavior.
They do.
So they want to model it. Everything you do, your life is their book that they learn from. Anything you do. And so, you know, if you're going to do that, don't do it in front of them. Because, and so they know that it's not a good thing because Mama said it's not a good thing. You know. And neither one of my kids smoke. Now, one of them will take a chew of tobacco or a dip of skull, but that's still safer than breathing the tar and
Is it better?
It's safer because there's no tar to go into your lungs.
Oh.
You're not breathing into your lungs, and you're not breathing carbon monoxide. You're still getting the nicotine, because that's what people who chew or dip want, is they want that little buzz that they get from the nicotine. I mean, it's like a calms them down. That's why most people smoke, to calm them down. Smoking is calming, and so. But if you dip or chew, that it's not good, but it's a lot better than smoking, because you don't get the tar or the carbon monoxide. So you've eliminated two of the poisons.
I can't imagine carbon monoxide.
That it's in there, yeah. And it's not real good for you.
No. No.
And you're breathing that when you breathe the secondhand
awful
smoke.
thought, awful
But
thought. Awful thought.
I'm not suggesting that people, do that. But if a person does that, that's a better option than smoking.
Yeah.
So, and I've had guys who, just couldn't smoke because of their lungs, who were really turned their health around by switching to smokeless tobacco, is what they like to call it, because you eliminate the effects on your lungs. You still get the nicotine effects on your blood pressure and your cardiac, and they're getting that little nicotine fix that you want when people say I'm having a nicotine fit. I got to smoke a cigarette. I got to calm down. They still get that, but it's still a lot healthier than smoking.
I just wondered about that. The other day.
I'm sorry we got off on that, but I'm on my soapbox.
We're doing pretty good. The other day I called my doctor, and they said she was out for a procedure, and I said, well, your doctor ain't supposed to get sick. Forget that. But you had gallbladder surgery, didn't you? That's more than a procedure.
Yeah.
That's a serious thing.
Yeah. And it's another one of those things. It's like we were talking a while ago about people have to be careful about what you say, because they'll people would call the office and say they want to be seen or whatever, and not thinking Maxine or Lisa would say she's out sick. Well, then people immediately go from that. Well, she's
not able to work anymore.
She's sick again. The next thing they're going is, we heard you're going to retire. That you weren't coming back to work.
Oh,
that you were, and it just it's that old thing about, give me an inch, I'll take a mile. Yes. People love to take the ball and run with
that's
it.
true. I had a fella that called me and wanted a haircut, and I told him, I said, no, he's an elderly man, and I said that we had a little old virus or something, 24-hour deal, and I said, I don't think you better. I said, you'll catch what I have. Well, 6 months later, he called me back. He waited a long time for me to get over that virus.
Yeah.
And said, how are you feeling?
How are you feeling?
Yeah,
are you
6 months
contagious?
So, stuff does get blown up big.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it does.
What happened to me, and this is, and I was talking about this to a dear friend of mine who had stomach bypass surgery recently and has lost a great deal of weight really fast, which is really good. But one of the long-term possible side effects of rapid weight loss is that you tend to form gallstones. And so when I had radiation treatments for the salivary gland cancer, I couldn't eat for a long time and lost a bunch of weight real fast. And then the very next year, my husband got really sick with lung cancer and, you know, had a rapid downhill decline and passed away. And then, you know, you go through this grieving. And so then I lost a lot more weight because I didn't want to eat, didn't want to cook. You know, you're by yourself. You just stand at the sink and eat a piece of bologna or a piece of turkey and go on and be done with it.
Call it good enough.
That's right. So I lost a good bit of weight real fast. And I'd never had any stomach problems. I mean, that's one thing I've always been happy about is I've always had like a cast iron stomach.
Yeah.
You know, as far I could eat anything, nothing ever bothered me. And but every year after you have cancer surgery and treatments, you have to get what's called a PET scan, which is a scan, a total body thing, looking to see if your cancer's back anywhere. I mean, people who are out there, there's people out there that are listening that have had these, and they know what I'm talking about. But they scan you from head to toe, and the first two that I had, they come back and say everything's fine, and then the third year that I had one, they say everything's fine except, oh, you got a gallstone. And I said, oh, okay. This was last year, or whenever it was a long time ago. And I said, it's not bothering me. I'm not going to bother it. I know it's there. It can stay there. I don't want any more surgery right now. So back during, I think, January of this year, it was like, oh, this weird pain that, you know, and the worst thing you can do if you've got a gallstone is to go to the all-you-can-eat catfish place and eat all-you-can-eat catfish. I know up there at the sugar farm, one night we went, and, you know, you pay that money, so you want to eat all the catfish you can. I mean, you don't want to just sit there and eat hush puppies and taters. You want to eat the catfish. So I just went for the catfish, and I made a hog out of myself. And then I did eat some hush puppies and some raw onion and some, you know, raw vegetables. Cabbage. Raw vegetables and fried foods will knock your legs out from under you if you've got gallstones. So, I mean, you know, you take a night or two of misery like that, and you kind of say, I think I want to get rid of this thing. So I brought it to show you. I'm doing show and tell. Everybody says
her gallstone.
Yeah, Dr. Hubert Spears, the doctor in Oxford that did my surgery, was my classmate in medical school. He was not only my classmate, he was my lab partner for 4 years. I mean, we did everything together for 4 years, and when he became a surgeon, you know, everybody that I've got, you know, in my family that says, well, who would you go to for whatever? I'll say, okay, let's go see Hubert. So I went to see Hubert, and I showed him my x-ray and everything, and he said, okay, we're going to do it. And I mean, he just bam, bam, bam. It's like falling off a log anymore to have gallbladder surgery. You know, you have 4 little incisions, little small incisions. And I said, I want to see that thing. And so he saved it for me. And there it is. It looks
like a rock.
It looks like, well, it is a rock. And it looks like a quail egg. Yeah. And everybody goes, oh, yuck, yuck. Yeah. And one of my nurses looked at it, and she said, oh, Dr. South, what is that made out of? And I said, it's made out of cheeseburgers. Too many cheeseburgers.
Like
oh, yeah. It's not nasty.
It does.
But
it looks like a rock.
Yeah, I've got a friend that does jewelry, Ripple Rasmussen. She's an artist, and she makes jewelry, and she's going to make it into a pendant. But I'll never wear it. I
don't think
I don't want to look at that thing anymore. It's kind of gross. But anyway, I told her I'd do show and tell today.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't know they call them a gallstone. I realized they're actually a rock.
Well, there's all different kinds of stones. Some of them are made out of bile salts, which I think that one is, and that's from the rapid weight loss. Some of them are made out of cholesterol, and they're like green or yellow, and there'll be a whole bunch of little stones. I mean, you can go on the computer and Google gallstones, and they'll show you 500 different looking gallstones. Every one of them look different.
Huh.
You might have one big one. You might have, 100 little bitty ones that look like little green BBs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a different problem, but a high-fat diet, there's this thing, you may not have heard this. What are I think there's 5 F's of gallbladder disease, 5 F's for gallstones, and they taught us this in medical school, the 5 F's. Who's the most likely person to get gallstones? Female, mm-hmm. Fat, fertile, that means you've had children, mm-hmm. 40 and over, and flatulent, which means you're gassy. So there's 5 F's. Censor that if you need to, but the 5 F's of gallbladder disease. So if you're fair, fat, female, fair skin, white mm-hmm. people have more than black people. Fair, really? Fat, female, fertile, and 40. Mm-hmm. And flatulent, there's 6. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Huh.
Y'all are getting a crash course in gallbladder disease.
Yes, we are. That is neat. While we're on the subject of oddball things, one day you got silly and wrote a book, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it took place over a period of time, and everybody that watches this show knows about it. But let's bring it out again.
Around?
There's a very few left, and I just, in fact, there's less than 100 left. They printed 1,000, and I think about 900 have sold. There's a few around
wonderful?
Here. Yeah, and the profits of it have gone to charity. The main charity that it's gone to, and it's not really a charity, it's a scholarship program for rural scholars. Mm-hmm. And what that is to help young people who don't really have the money to become a doctor to be able to go to medical school. And so the proceeds have gone to that. There's also been proceeds that have gone to the breast cancer awareness groups. There's been also some to, just the Blue Mountain College. Some was donated to some of their foundation through the sales.
Stuff. Yeah. Great stuff down there.
But it's available locally if anybody doesn't have one. There's a few left. Ripley Drug, Bobby Mays is selling them. Pineapple Shop at Blue Mountain, Grapevine Village in Ripley. I love Mary Jane.
I do too.
Bread at Pineapple Shop. You can go to the Blue Mountain College bookstore. They're available at the museum. Mm-hmm. You see Johnny Wilbanks at the museum.
Johnny Wilbanks.
And then, I usually keep some in the trunk of my car, kind of like John Grissom did. There'll be some in the trunk of my car wherever I am. But they're almost gone, really. And so if you hadn't got one, think about getting one. And need to work on another one, don't I?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll tell you something about this book. She was always Dr. South, and I really didn't know her. In fact, the first time, I don't think you know this, that the 3 old men played on our program on Saturday night. I went back through the office, and it was, y'all been here for a good while. He said, "Did you speak to Dr. South?" I said, "No, is she here?" I didn't know. I mean, because, I just didn't know her, and, I'd always heard of Dr. South, and I said, "Well, where's she at?" So I came over and talked to you, and then we went ahead and did the program. But somehow, when I read that book, mm-hmm. you were no longer Dr. South. You were the person.
Oh,
it's just a difference. That's something. If you want to get to know her, read the book.
Well,
because this book is amazing.
Well, and that's odd, because most of those articles are stories and things that were written for our state medical journal, which is mostly read by doctors. Mm-hmm. But I try to write, when I learned, after I had written a few, that I would get more feedback or, phone calls mm-hmm. or things to talk to people from their spouses, most of which are still the doctors. Most doctors are still male anymore, even though there's more and more women becoming doctors. So I would get more feedback from the spouse, so that let me know that those medical journals were laying around on the bedstand and their spouse was reading them, or ending up, somewhere in the house where they'd pick them up and they'd go through all these scientific articles and come to the last page, and it was something about real life. It was more of a human interest thing. And so from that, I realized that it wasn't something that just was geared toward doctors. And so I started writing more with their spouses in mind and anybody else that might pick up and read it. And if I was ever fortunate enough to do another book, it's not going to be geared toward doctors. It's going to be geared toward just folks.
People.
Because
when I read that, the real human person, you go see a doctor, well, they're a doctor. Like I say, I called and you ain't supposed to get sick. I mean, no.
well,
You don't look at a doctor. Most people do not really look at a doctor as being a person. They're a doctor. It's grilled into us from the time we're small. You say, now you got that right in here because that doctor is going to do this or do that,
Oh, yeah, I know,
they
yeah.
Do it to us.
They used to really, really get to me when people would threaten their children with me.
Yeah,
they'd come in and they'd be in the office and they'd tell their kid, "You sit down and shut up, or I'm going to tell that doctor to give you a shot."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Don't use me to threaten your child."
Oh, I know.
I said, "I'll give you the shot."
They come in the beauty shop and they'll say, "Miss Daryl's going to get you." I say, "I am not."
Right.
Don't tell them I'm going to do it. You get them.
Well, there's nothing like being sick and having all the things. I mean, doctors are everybody on earth is a patient sooner or later.
That's right.
Now, that's the first thing you need to remember. Every human being is a patient sooner or later, and doctors are not immune to that at all. And there's nothing like being sick to make you aware and sympathetic or empathetic to the patient's problems. I don't think I was ever as good a doctor as a young, healthy person as I was when I started having ailments of my own. And then it's like when people come in and they'll say, "Oh, I've got this pain right here." I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
That's right. Can you believe this hour's over?
Is it?
Yes.
Oh,
It told me
no.
3 minutes. Can you believe
3
that?
minutes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and we're just getting started.
Well,
You'll have to come back.
I went chasing rabbits. I'm sorry.
You'll have to come back. Y'all, we have enjoyed this hour together. I do appreciate you coming. That's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Don't forget to watch the Jeter Family program Saturday night at 7 o'clock. I do hope you'll tune us in again next Monday at 7 for Daryl's Little Corner. May God bless.